Uh, a very good afternoon to all. First of all, I think it's a pleasure hosting, some of the leaders, some of the esteemed panelists on a domain which is very closer to my heart, especially, right? Which is AI for small and medium businesses, unlocking growth and innovation. I'll just take sort of an opportunity to first introduce myself at the forum. My name is Pranav Mangla. Uh, I bring in around 14 years of experience, working with billion-dollar tech platform companies. Have had the privilege working with them, to solve for some of the on-ground challenges whenever it comes to specific SMB space, right? Where I think there are a lot of challenges and pain points that these guys are facing. And definitely as we go forward to the session, we'll be, decoding a lot more of them. I'll take pleasure to introduce the panel at the forum. We've joined by Mr. Himanshu Singh, who is the SVP Business Head Solution Engineering and International GTM for Zaggle. He's leading multiple businesses within Zaggle, including EMS and taking some of the solutions globally as well. Again, an active investor and a board member in multiple tech AI company. Next, we have Mr. Mohan Ramaswamy, co-founder and CEO at Rubix Data Sciences. Again, a veteran when it comes to technology, information, and analytics. He's been the ex-CEO for Dun & Bradstreet for 10 years and then CEO for LexisNexis. Currently, he's the co-founder and CEO for Rubix Data Sciences, where they are helping customers mitigate risk assessment and monitoring. Almost with a customer base of 1,000, they're facilitating 40,000 plus risk assessments for their customers. Next up, we have Mr. Pankaj Gupta, founder and CEO for Act 21 currently. Founder and CEO of Act 21, which is again pioneering SaaS platform specifically for the BFSI space. Next, we have Mr. Prabhu Ishwar, VP Demand Side Products for Datawrkz. Again, a veteran when it comes to end-to-end stack in terms of how and what's the playbook when it comes to the digital marketing or the marketing game for a lot of these SMBs and large enterprises. And then we have Mr. Ashwin Shankar, CTO for Integra Microsystems. Again, a veteran carrying more than 30 plus years of experience, having worked across banking, government, construction management, and many other verticals. I just want to start, this subject by citing some insights when it comes to the SMBs space, right? India houses a massive 75 million base of SMBs, which are roughly contributing 30% to the country's GDP, 46% to the exports, constituting massive 95% plus, industrial units, employing almost 105 million people, which is nothing but almost more than 90%, 40% of the country's workforce. When you think of AI, I mean, I've been like into the space where I've almost interacted with 3,000 plus SMBs in the last 6 years, right? As per a recent survey that we did with some of these SMBs, one insight that we sort of decoded was that more than 75% of SMBs are actually experimenting and decoding when it comes to using AI. It can be a use case of a content creation and curation, or probably simple a customer service chatbot, right? And you'll be glad to know that more than 90% cited that it has a direct impact on their business growth, or probably driving some of the operational efficiencies. Now think of a scenario when 5 years back, maybe during pre-COVID times, you will have a sort of a mom and a pop retailer, you having more than 60-70% of manual processes in place. Today you won't agree that there are a lot of solutions that the same SMB has been using when it comes to automating inventory management, or probably using a WhatsApp for business to ignite customer experiences, so on and so forth. So here's my first question to the audience, to the panelists, right? So we have, when I split the SMB spectrum, we have these SMBs decoded into multiple personas, right? There is a fraction of persona who has adopted these AI solutions, but there is still a bunch which is struggling to use even the simplest of use cases when it comes to AI, right? So what are the what are the barriers when it comes to adoption of some of these solutions? Is it budgetary constraints? Is it lack of technical know-how? Or they are like very feared, they are scared of using technology? Maybe Himanshu, maybe we'll start from you.
Sure. So thank you, Pranav. I think I'm seeing increasing use of AI in startups, right? I think initially it was probably a problem with know-how and how do I really use this technology. But in the last a few years, especially after COVID, I've seen immense growth in a few things. For example, customer service, right? I think everybody now uses bots. Everybody uses WhatsApp AI. Everybody is using OpenAI for customer service. I think that has also extended into sales, right? I think we are seeing a lot of, especially SMEs in retail segment, targeting customers via WhatsApp, uh, and also making use of a lot of digital marketing techniques to attract customers. So I think it was initially a problem of know-how. Obviously, AI may have a cost, but when you look at long-term benefits, even short-term, right? I think it'll land up uh, really giving a very good ROI, right? And some use cases where immediately I think SMEs can jump in is obviously attracting customers, using AI to create marketing campaigns, create WhatsApp campaigns, reaching out to your customers, and obviously on the chatbot side, it's a no-brainer, right? I think all of us, when if you remember 10 years back, if I had LG fridge, it broke down. I used to call, wait on IVR for 20 minutes, and then I had to give my address to the person, explain the problem, and the call used to go for half an hour. And now it's a 2-minute job. I go to LG WhatsApp channel, say this is my issue, ticket is locked, somebody comes to my house next day. So I think that's one of the easiest thing to do, for a SME to start with. Obviously, there are too many things that we can do. For example, if you're in a manufacturing setup and you struggle to forecast supply demand, AI can really help you predict the demand, and then accordingly you can automate your supply. And if you're in a manufacturing setup, IoT can automatically start manufacturing for you, stop when the demand forecast is less. So I think it's about know-how really. I think the resistance to adopt AI has reduced in the last few years. And I think the pricing bottleneck, especially in India, I think it's not there. Obviously, I'm not saying buy, US-based company products. Indian AI companies are quite affordable, and I think we should really promote those products, SMEs, again selling to SMEs. And that's the concept.
Great, great. Thanks for the perspective, Himanshu. Moving into Prabhu, right? So, Prabhu, we've seen a phase where AI is actually revolutionizing the entire space, right? So, thinking of AI and, a function like a marketing function, right? Where, people have the tendency to invest less and probably have more access to the customer acquisition. So what's your view when it comes to, some sort of barriers when it comes to some of these thinking of the adoption game?
So in the marketing space, I think coming from marketing background, I see marketing has the most potential to be AIfied because in marketing, you can start small with a small campaign and test things out rather than putting a lot of money in the core functions. So from that perspective, I think we are seeing some form of adoption across the board, either it in terms of using the basic elements like the data to find out the right target segments, starting from there, all the way to, there are tools, including ours, which will help set up the campaigns pretty easily in terms of, you don't need to know what kind of marketing or what kind of data that you need to select, etc. Based on your objectives, there are tools available which will fetch and create the whole campaign. So across the spectrum of digital marketing, campaign management, there are use cases that we are seeing where AI is playing a big role. One of the other examples, very simple example, is the ability to generate the ad banners or creatives. So using a tool like Midjourney, it's possible for anyone to go and create high quality content. So that is picking up, and that's playing a big role in SMEs taking control of what can be done, how they want to play this game.
Great, great. Now breaking into breaking into the cohorts, right? So out of 75 million base of SMBs, right, almost 50% of them belong to the retail and manufacturing cohorts, which are the prima facie cohorts, right? There is a lot of traction when it comes to adoption of AI, and even the supply side and the ecosystem are building solutions both on the horizontal front when it comes to sales, marketing, finance, HR, and also on the vertical front while they are building solutions and platforms vertically, right? So my next question, is to Ashwin maybe. How do you foresee maybe will there be more traction specifically across building vertical specific use cases in AI, or you see that there'll be a trend focused towards, the horizontal part?
Yeah, I believe the horizontal space is more, vertical space is industry specific. So there are some industries in SMEs which are very adaptive to AI. For example, you said marketing and the e-commerce and that sort of thing. So those guys will go ahead. But there's a lot of guys who just are not ready for AI, or they don't have the data, they don't have the skills or manpower. These guys will really benefit from a horizontal AI platforms. Like for example, if you have a skill building platform across a specific industry, then you have a startup or somebody who's building that platform across for all the SMEs in that industry. So those sort of guys will benefit from a horizontal.
Got it. Great insights, Ashwin. Moving to you, Pankaj, since you specifically cater to the BFSI segment, right? I'm sure you would be more, your interest and passion would be more towards driving, AI solutions towards the BFSI space. So what's your perspective? Do you see traction towards more horizontal play or vertical play or a blended play? Sorry?
There was a lot of echo.
I'm so sorry. Is it better? Is it better? Okay. So what I'm saying is that what we have seen is that the supply side ecosystem is, building the solutions both at the horizontal level, right, where sales, marketing, finance, HR is there, and one is the vertical play. And you specifically are building platforms when it comes to, the BFSI space, right? So what's your perspective? Do you see more traction of AI coming into the vertical play or horizontal play, or there'll be a blended play?
So it is definitely going to be a blended play. You talk about any industry, finance, retail, healthcare, fashion, any industry, AI is tremendously contributing and, helping the industry. And same thing goes for your verticals also, right? Say, for example, if you talk about marketing, everybody, even the small SMBs are using the tools. They can easily, like content writing, image generation, video generation. This is everywhere. In the same way, if you want to look at operations, right? So in operations also, there are n number of things. Say, for example, inventory management, right? Optimization of inventory. So that is also there. You take any other, say, for example, supply chain, right? So in supply chain also, there is a lot of optimization and intelligence coming in. So it is going to be all over, I think. Depends on a lot of industries. Say, for example, if you talk about SMBs, right? Manufacturing, for example, generally you will not find very, very IT tech-oriented manufacturing industries, small in SMBs again. So they need to be taught, they need to be informed and all that. And I'm sure they will follow the course of the other industry. These days, you don't need to be actually a tech guy, right? It has totally democratized and it is so easy to use, anybody can learn it. So definitely, as I see, it is very difficult to say this particular vertical or this industry,
Got it. Thanks. Next, I think one of the biggest pain points of SMB is getting access to finance, and you would agree, right? When it comes to lending or getting access to finance. This for Mohan, right? So Mohan, you work closely with a lot of these SMBs through the banks, corporates, and many other financial institutions. How do you support banks and corporates in lending to or trading with such SMBs? Because I'm sure AI will have a big role to play, and specifically when it comes to, let's say, any SMB who wants access to finance, right? I'm sure there are many more legal compliance and KPIs which a bank would be following at the back end, for which these SMEs and SMBs have to comply with. So what's your perspective when it comes to this space?
Yeah, so what I believe is that, see, if it's very simple. If India today is roughly a $4 trillion economy, in a few years from now, if we've got to become a $10 trillion economy or a $15 trillion economy, then we'd expect the SMBs to contribute in a big way, right? So it is not enough for just the large corporates or the mid-sized corporates to have access to funds or to facilitate in the GDP building process. So SMEs will have to play a big role. And we are seeing that from the past few years where, access to finance and access to trade and business to SMEs is picking up. There is still a long way to go, but I think we've come a long way from where we used to be about 15 years back. Just to give a perspective to everybody, different sources quote a different number, but roughly the credit active universe of Indian companies is roughly about 60 million odd. That is about 6 crores odd. And there are about 2.2 million companies that are public or private limited who have to file their returns with the ROC. Right, so the bulk of the credit active universe are proprietorship partnership firms who don't have to file any financials with any central body, right? But again, banks want to, when I talked about credit active universe, this is to do with credit that banks want to extend to them, and so also the companies that want to transact business with these so-called SMEs, right? So what typically happens is that now, but everybody wants to lend to these SMEs. They want to transact business with the proprietorship partnership firms. So how does one facilitate the process? This is where the role of alternate data comes into play. You don't have access to formal data such as credit bureaus or their internal data. You don't have access to. So which is where the importance of alternate data goes up in a big way. Things like GST filing, your compliance data, your code data, your social media data, the feedback that perhaps employees and customers give out about products and services. So there are a lot of proxies, that come into use to ascertain the overall creditworthiness of entities, basis which banks can decide to lend to them or not. Likewise, corporates can decide to transact business with them or not, or maybe even get a sense of the extent of business they can safely transact with them. So that, I think, is picking up in a big way, and AI is playing a significant role because you have, like I said, I'll just take maybe 30 seconds more, but you have data from about 150 sources that you look at that you want to analyze, right, on the fly, on the go. You want to do that quickly. You want to make sure that you turn that around to a bank or the corporate in a matter of a few hours. How do you do that? Without technology, without artificial intelligence and machine learning, it is just impossible to do that. So that's why the adoption has picked up in a big way, where at least for us, we are able to process several types or several varieties of both structured and unstructured data, synthesize it, derive sense out of it, derive insights out of it, and come up with predictive indicators that are helping banks and corporates today to take decisions on who to be working with. So AI and ML, I should admit, has taken significant precedence in ensuring that you facilitate access to both trade and financing to SMEs in India. Long way to go, but I think we've come a long way from where we were 15 years back.
Thanks for the perspective. So one interesting insight, right? While we speak to a lot of SMBs, typically their spending, so their IT spend as a percentage of revenue stands somewhere around 3 to 5% on a high level, right? Investing in AI might seem a luxury than a necessity, right? And I think just building on one of the thought that we are hearing is, how do they really evaluate ROI on that spend? For example, if they're spending, let's say, 100 rupees on 5 or 10 different solutions, right, IT solutions, is there a metric that they can track that, okay, fine, if I invest in these 5 solutions, probably I'll get more access to customers, or I'll get more leads, or probably I'll be able to drive operational efficiencies, right? So I think I'll just take a basic use case, let's say, of a simple cash management or a spend management. Maybe Himanshu, over to you. So what's your thought that, while you speak to customers, deal with customers, when it comes to evaluating ROI, typically what are the KPIs or metrics these guys have in mind?
Yes, I think there are various buckets of, where typical SME focuses on, right? So the number one priority for anybody is revenue, right? And how do I generate more leads? How do I reach out to more customers? And AI can play a very significant role there, reducing costs drastically. Right? One simple example of one of the investments I've done is what they did is see procurement of database. DNB is very costly, right?
I'm not in DNB, by the way.
So basically, getting access to the data is very costly, right? AI can crawl the web and create email addresses very easily, start your campaigns immediately. WhatsApp again is a great channel for automating messaging and auto response and engaging with customers. So I think the ROI there is direct, right? Where I am able to attract customers at a very low cost. My CAC really reduces. And I've seen companies whose CAC was 10,000 and which has gone down to hundreds of rupees, right? The second use case is obviously customer retention, where you have to support customers, and as you grow, you may have to get a team of 20, 30 supporting these people or outsourcing that. While AI can really replace those additional headcounts that you may have to hire in future. So that's a direct ROI as well. In terms of compliance, I think AI can really help, right? And now AI can really catch anything which is non-compliant, and compliance is now getting big in MSMEs as well. Earlier it was big in enterprises, but more and more SMEs today want to be compliant, right? Where they're spending, to whom are they spending? Are they dealing with the right vendors? Are they blacklisted or not? Are my employees filing duplicate expense reports? So really, AI, what AI can do here is, let's take example of travel expense or a spend management use case. Here, a small business can save up to 15 to 20% of the travel budget if they use AI to tell them when should they travel, the policies are right or not, automatically catch exceptions. How are they paying their vendors? Are vendors, raising duplicate claims? Are they raising claims which are higher than they were supposed to? Usually in MSMEs, the finance team is very small, right? One or two people, and it's not possible for them to eyeball everything. AI can really automate that process. You can survive with one odd finance guy who handles all of your finances and compliance exceptions. And there are many more use cases, right? So I think now AI is something which is affordable. There is no capex spend in AI. It's a SaaS spend usually. And I think the access is quite, there are multiple plans of AI capabilities, AI platforms. And I think the ROI is quite direct now, right? I don't think now anybody who's tech savvy will not think twice about investing. Obviously, there are some luxury AI capabilities, predictive analytics and so on and so forth, which obviously needs to be looked at a little more deeply. But a few components are very, it's a no-brainer. One more activity that I've seen a lot of new startups doing is using AI for hiring. Because the HR team is very, maybe one or two people, you typically outsource hiring of leadership. And most often than not, in India, there is a 70-80% chance that the leader that you hire will leave in 1 year, right? It's a cultural misfit. So there are, AI platforms like Value Matrix, for example. They will tell you if the person is the right fit culturally or not, will he stick around or not, right? And for founders and CEOs, I think this becomes really important. Whether the person joining me right now will be there for 10 years and help me with the growth journey. So I think there is obviously a hard ROI, there is a value-driven ROI. And I think it's getting very clear that making use of AI is only going to bring you benefits if you use it the right way. If it's implemented properly, that's where I think the company will have to focus their attention on implementing the AI capability correctly.
Great. Another important thing, right? So these SMBs, they're not competing with only the SMBs universe, right? They are directly competing with some of the large enterprises also, right? If you talk about today. Is there a way AI can actually help them, these small businesses, in this level playing field, right? Because ultimately, these SMEs are building solutions directly. Either they're selling to these enterprises, or probably these enterprises also building these solution. So I think this is a question to Prabhu, right? So is there a way these SMBs can also sit in the same equilibrium or ecosystem where they directly compete with some of the large enterprises, maybe specifically when it comes to sales and marketing function, right? Could you share some of the best practices or some real-time use cases or examples where you've seen really this blossoming?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I already spoke about earlier is the whole creative generation using AI. I think the biggest area where we see this happening is in the way the data is being identified. So if I want to identify the right target segments, so that's where AI plays a big role. Whether you are a big company or a small company, at the end of the day, reaching out to the right person, right target segment is important from a marketing standpoint. And that's where we see AI really helping the small businesses, because of course the large enterprises have all the muscle to go and build their own data science teams and use all the might that they have to create the right segments from a marketing standpoint. But there are tools that are available out there which are affordable and available for small and medium businesses today, which can easily synthesize the data that the small businesses are collecting and give them access to the right segments, the right audiences, so that their marketing spends are being optimized towards reaching the right people. So that's one example. Of course, there are other smaller examples like chatbots. I think Himanshu can talk more. But chatbots are, again, you don't need army of people to in a customer service function. Chatbots can easily help and probably do a better job in making the whole customer service as a self-service for the end users. So these are some of the examples that come to mind in terms of how AI can help small businesses.
Got it, thanks. Another important aspect I want to touch about, right? So I think whenever we are playing with data, tools, technology, one important aspect is the vulnerability aspect, right? Security and compliance. There's a lot of buzz about, security, governance, compliance, because a lot of data that is actually being used. I take a simple example of a OpenAI or a Gemini, right? When we are doing some query resolution or doing chats, right? So in fact, I've had some CXO conversations where people have told us that, a lot of data got compromised because all the data are being used by some of these AI tools. And right, that's the reason they're actually banning it from some of the enterprises, right? So again, it's a mixed kind of perspective that we're getting. Obviously, it is helping a lot when it comes to specific use cases, right? But there's a question to Mohan, right? So what's your view when it comes to security, compliance, data privacy aspect when it comes to adopting some of these solutions when it comes to usage by the SMBs?
Extremely critical and very pertinent question too, because now is when the DPDP Act will also come into play. And we play with a lot of data. I mean, in the sense that given that we are serving, I'm just taking that as an example. Given we work with corporates, banks, insurers, other financial institutions, we provide intelligence on roughly about 50,000 plus entities in a month to all of these guys, right? So imagine the amount of data that we gather through a variety of sources. But what we very consciously do is that, we don't look at personal sensitive information at all, of individuals. We are assessing companies, but in many cases for proprietorship firms, the individual is a company, right? So PSI or personal sensitive information, as they say, is something which we have to be extremely careful that, I mean, even if you've obtained it through consent, you can't reuse it for your business development purposes or for other commercial use. So you have to be careful about that. So, I mean, that's where the adoption of AI comes into play, where, I talked about how we help banks take decisions on who to lend to, right? So that's where the importance of AI comes into play, where you are able to, use a variety of sources, do a lot of predictive modeling So it is, especially for proprietorship partnership firms, the small companies, which is 95% of the credit active universe, you have to resort to a lot of predictive modeling using data that you already have, but not as it is, but creating benchmarks out of it, and then using them to assess a new entity, depending on the bracket that it falls under. So a lot of unique, innovative mechanisms you have to use in a way that you are able to serve the purpose for the end customer, but at the same time, you don't compromise on the personal sensitive information that is either provided by the entity in most cases, or you might have even got it from any public source. So there is a lot of emphasis. You have to be careful and compliant, else hell will break loose. If everybody starts doing this on the go, then imagine what we'll be up to.
Great, great. I'll pass on the same question to Pankaj. Pankaj, you've also been building platforms for the fintech ecosystem where specifically there are a lot of regulations into place, right? So what's your view when it comes to data privacy and security, right, when it comes to AI adoption?
So security, data protection is definitely a very key element. But then other side of it is that in today's world, you cannot survive without AI, right? Anybody who says total no to this, he's out of business. Now, given this, I think but anyone needs to take a balanced approach. When I say balanced approach, for example, very simple things. When we go and subscribe on a website, there's a term sheet, right? How many people read it? I'm especially talking about the small businesses, one-man show kind of things, where there are a couple of guys who are running some business and all that. So they have to read. This is a very basic thing, right? When you are using OpenAI, do you know how much data it uses and for what purposes? Is it keeping your personal identity related data, for example, right? So all those things, I think it is more about making people aware and taking appropriate required care or cautious. They have to take a cautious approach. But definitely, I mean, this is important. But equally, you can't just live without it. Yeah.
Got it, got it. So in today's era, what we are witnessing is that I think the transformation that is happening is massive, right? And it's at a big scale. We don't know in the next 6 months or 12 months where eventually AI will land us into. So I'll move to Ashwin. Ashwin, maybe by the next 12 to 18 months, how do you foresee AI adoption in these SMBs? So what's the future is what we're trying to decode, right?
Yeah, see, the adoption will definitely grow. Okay, I don't know whether it will grow exponentially or not. I definitely know that for marketing companies, e-commerce companies, they will be almost 100% on AI platforms. Manufacturing guys are probably going to use more of vision and IoT devices and that sort of AI mixed with data science, because that's where they are comfortable with right now. And there are a lot of these small and medium enterprises all across rural India who the costs and somebody has to really work out platforms for them to be able to, because they can't afford having individual outlays for AI. So they'll have to definitely go for some SaaS models. They'll have to definitely go for tailor-made models which are already built for them. They just simply use it. The way now everybody in the who is fairly well educated uses ChatGPT because it's so easy to use. That has to replicate to the use cases what these guys need. So it has to be very easy to use, where they can quickly use it, very economically use it, and it will definitely grow.
Great, great, Ashwin. Over to you, Prabhu. How do you see an SMB of 2026 visualizing the marketing stack in the dashboard of his sort of...
See, I think for me, it will be really heartening to see if an SMB can come and say, look, I have 50,000 rupees of campaign budget. These are my campaign objectives, please run the campaign. That's all they should be able to say, and don't worry about anything else. The system should be able to take over and say, do everything that is needed behind the scenes and deliver the results. I think that's the way where at least the marketing technology is moving towards. And 2026 may be too optimistic, but yes, I think we are going towards that direction.
Great. Next, Himanshu, I think we've discussed, right, that, about some self-serve models or DIY kind of models coming into picture, right? So your outlook, your perspective in terms of how an SMB of 2026 would look like, how will he figure out AI workflow?
I think there are a few areas where it's a no-brainer, right? So like marketing and customer service. I think that adoption has already started and it will continue to grow. I think how the future of customer service looks like is more on not on number of users or platform fee, but how many auto resolutions did you do for me? So I think that's a no-brainer. On the marketing side also, I think see one great example is content creation, where I've a typical SME used to spend 50,000, 1 lakh per month on a content. On content by outsourcing it or having some people in. That's 100% automated by OpenAI, or there are new tools, Indian tools like Reachify Me. They can generate all the content that you need to post on social, or you want to do SEO. SEO is 100% automated. So those things I think are really no-brainers, which will continue to grow. And as people realize the power of AI in manufacturing, retail, sales, especially, I think we will have more and more adoption. And see, one great thing is that the government is also promoting a lot of AI, right? And you saw NVIDIA CEO coming here, meeting PM Modi. As the hardware infrastructure also scales, as data centers scale in India, as we have more compute power, I think our own Indian AI will continue to rise and making it more and more affordable. Some of these security risks will go away, which right now, let's say OpenAI does not have a data center in India, which is justified, concern. But I think as we grow technologically in India, I think AI is going to help us scale to the next level, especially, SMEs, because SMEs don't want to spend unnecessarily on hiring more people than you need, spending on marketing budget. So I think AI will bring affordability, reachability to all our MSMEs and help them grow business, support customers better, manufacture better, sell better. So I think I do see a very bright future of AI, as long as the implementation is right, you know the concerns and you address it properly.
Great. No, I echo with that thought. In fact, Satya came to India. There's an announcement of 3 billion investment. There are a lot of skilling initiatives across with multiple, education entities. So I think I absolutely agree and echo with your thought, right? Over to you, Mohan. I think in terms of how do you visualize an SMB of 2026,
See, I'd like to stick to the use case of, financial institutions, banks, being able to, lend effectively to SMBs and corporates, being able to easily work with SMBs, right, to transact business. And for that to happen, there are 4 things that are extremely critical and where AI plays a significant role even today. One is comprehensiveness of information. So today, I was just referring to a plethora of alternate data that we look at to assess a particular company, right? Both structured and unstructured data, derive sense out of it, and then give decisioning basis which the bank or the corporate can take a decision either for it or against it. So there has to be a lot of, so these are all external sources that we look at, plus a lot of modeling that we do. This has to be, for the decision to be, to get to 100% accuracy, it also needs to be substantiated with data, live data on the fly, right? Like your energy consumption data, your access to the credit bureaus, so on and so forth, which will make the decisioning process far more robust than what it is today. So that I think will pick pace in a big way. It's already picked significant pace, but I think it'll only further strengthen in the days ahead. Second is the quality of information. So if you're using technology, you're not subject to manual errors, so human errors. So that I think will automatically is getting taken care of today. You know, he referred to my previous company, but at Rubix we use technology extensively, which is why errors are virtually minimal. And third important point, as a result of this, is the cost, right? So you, because of technology, you are able to keep the overall processing cost really low, thereby enabling, again, whether, I mean, banks or other FIs or even corporates to quickly decide whether to go ahead and transact business with them or not. Last but not the least, scale, right? Everybody is interested in growing their business. Banks and financial institutions want to lend, corporates want to transact business, but they are not wanting to wait. They want to take calls immediately. So are you in a position to provide that intelligence on multiple businesses, be it in India or overseas, almost immediately, which will enable them take decisions and transact business on the fly, right? So all of these four aspects will only intensify in the times ahead, which will make, which will facilitate decision making almost at the speed of light, if I can say that.
Thanks, Mohan. I think these are some great perspectives, and I think you guys also will echo. So, we've been called a tech-enabled nation, so maybe an AI-enabled nation could be a tagline that we soon see that, you know, how the entire narrative of the SMBs and the enterprises are coming up, right? So, I think that's all that we had for the session. In case we have time, maybe we can have one or two questions from the audience side. You know, happy to take them up. Yes, please.
Hello, panelists. So my name is Amar, and I run an AI company called Potion. So we've been scaling really well in US. So we recently clocked 1 million ARR. But in India, we're facing a big challenge trying to make people understand what our product is. So we're into AI video personalization. So whatever you do with text in terms of communication, marketing, sales, prospecting, you can shift that focus from text only to video. And you can mass produce your video message with just a click. So it's quite, we are seeing good good acceptance ratio in countries like US, Canada, in European nations. But in India, maybe price point is one issue, but we're not able to get as much, let's say, accepting ratio that we would ideally expect or ideally would be viable to set up in India operations. So any perspective on that? Because definitely small businesses, someday we would like to invite SMBs into the picture as well. But even enterprise don't have the budget to incorporate such heavy strategy in their messaging or marketing or sales. So if you can shed some light on this, that would be amazing. On how do we especially crack this?
Sorry if I understood right, you're saying a lot of AI adoption is faster in the US and European nations and maybe a challenge in India.
Yes, precisely, yes.
Okay. We were just discussing before the session. So we work predominantly in the US and Europe, and you're right. There, I think the acceptance rates are really high and they're ready to experiment. One of the things which we are trying in the Indian market is to replicate some of it. And what is working for us is the ability to say that, look, at the end of the day, the business is the same. Let's say in US, we work with a restaurant chain. By the way, we work with small and medium businesses in the US. And we work with a number of restaurant chains there in their marketing management. So we are trying to bring in the examples of what's working there and talking to similar players here. Again, we are not going after the big chains, but the smaller local chains, and showing them how it is working. Because at the end of the day, well, of course, the economics are different, the region is different. But one of the things is to show that case studies, and I'm talking specifically from a marketing standpoint, show the case studies and say how it is working, what are the use cases that are working there.
Great, right, Prabhu, we are doing exactly same. The only problem that we are facing is that people are intrigued by the idea, they book a demo, we give them the demo. The major bottleneck comes on the pricing part. So we are priced at $99 for 750 credits. One credit is one video. Now, it's $99 is very easy for anyone to shed out in US and in European regions. In India, people actually think a million times before spending such an amount to experiment. So how, like we are doing content marketing, we're doing YouTube, we are doing, right now I'm starting with experimenting with partnerships, so that reaching out agencies and like big voices in the industry so that they can help us connect with the right clients. But this is the last resort that I have to even try to crack that nail. So any new strategies that you've been practicing in your own company or any learnings that you can share, that'll be super amazing.
Yeah, see, I think I've invested in at least 8-9 AI companies. You're right, I think the initial adoption was higher in US. But see, in India, who are the biggest users of AI, right? One is the banking sector, right? If you look at blockchain, if you look at AI, you look at predictive analytics, you've got to, in India, focus on the right segment. Even bots, right? Who is the largest buyer of bots in India? All these, public sector banks are the largest ones, right? So I think in India, you've got to really look at what is your TG, right? And then focus on that TG. When I look at, let's say, a yellow messenger kind of a company, right? They created vertical solutions, not horizontal, for each sector that they want to focus on. Similarly, I've invested in a company which is in Value Matrix, which is in tech hiring. They're only focusing on GCCs in India, who have, who have multiple thousands of workforce, and one of the challenges for them is hiring. So, if you really want to sell in India, I think you've got to really focus initially on your TG, not really build a very super large horizontal AI solution. And I think the other thing is they, Indian customers really look at ROI. How will I really get my returns? And I think they're not really okay with a very long-term ROI, especially if you look at SMEs, right? So you've got to really fine-tune your ROI, show them how do I bring value to you in terms of one, hard cash, and B, extra value. So I think if you do that, then it really works. On the SME side, also I think PLG doesn't work in India. It's a proven fact. So it's more of a reach out effort. Do a lot of SME events. You've got to reach out to people. So US strategy, India strategy is very, very different. PLG has never ever worked in India. So if you really are going on that PLG route, I think you've got to really recalibrate how do you want to sell in India, right? So I think we can talk separately. I can give you some cues.
Thanks, Himanshu. Really learned that the hard way. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the playbook is very different when you want to tap into a certain market, right, with specific set of offerings. So I think, again, very rightly said, so echoing with that thought. I think we'll just have time for one more question in case maybe.
Hi, Arjun this side. See, as of now, we have seen in market that AI can create videos, audios, duplicate it, and it's a kind of risk that one gets a call from his known person duplicating the voice and videos. So is there any governing body that impose limitations of these are the API set which should be used for specific purpose with specific purposes and only authorized persons or the team can use it?
Maybe Ashwin, Mohan, you want to take?
Body in India which governs any specific rules like we have DPDP? Other than is there any authority which has created rules, do's and don'ts?
I don't know.
So,
Any of
I don't think in India as of now there is a clearly defined rules around it. But globally there are a lot of efforts going on in Europe and all where you're talking about, I think, what do you call it? Impersonation, right?
Yes.
So there are bans about it. Like there was an app about deep fakes, right? I think it has been banned. So this is very well understood by the regulatory bodies, by the government, that this is a risk. The way I think is, and you see already seeing a lot of technology, which say, for example, if there is a video, fake video, there are platforms which can also tell you that this video is AI generated, right?
Yes.
So this is very new technology, as I see, things will fall in place as we go along, right? So I think there's no need to worry on that part, because if one person is creating platform to create fake videos, there are other 10 who are, you know, making tools to identify it, one. And then obviously this risk is very well understood by the government and regulatory bodies. So I think it will take its own course some time, but it will fall in place.
I just want to draw a parallel, just 30 seconds, with what happens in the information world. Because, you know, when you analyze so many companies, what happens is that you come up with patterns, right? Now, if you were to look at only the financials and analyze it, it'll tell you one story. But if you were to also combine that with a lot of unstructured data and derive sense out of it in terms of the patterns that are emerging, it may end up telling you a completely different story. So there are checks and balances that one has built in the information and analytics world to ascertain the correctness of information that you are analyzing and the predictability that you are building as a result for your customer. All right, so that has been happening, is happening, and will continue to happen in the information world, because, you know, ultimately your customers, be it a bank or a corporate or a financial institution, is basing their decision on your output, right, on what you are suggesting. I think, you know, given that all of this is also happening in a big way, there will be mechanisms that will come in place in order to ensure genuineness of the tools that can be deployed for all of these as well.
Yes, there are tools, but even the profession who wanted to check the liveliness of the video streaming in front of them, even those tools can be fraud. So, I'll give you an example of our company. We are into visa passport, wherein the liveliness of the person who is seeking an appointment need to be authenticated that that person is genuinely available, even though that person is not available and the fake video are being run by using the AI tools. So this is something wherein, see, AI is booming everywhere, but a restrictions panel or somewhere, superior authority at government level as well as the international level should be there who can control it. So that's the
See,
one
I think
part of it.
if you look at Europe, right, there are already bodies like this, right, and I think US has also recently set up. I know in India, if you look at every city, there are cybersecurity crime divisions, usually headed by an IPS level officer, minimum an SP level. On a policy level, I know that government is working on it. So I think India has not completely created a framework on governing the misuse of AI, but I think it's broadly falling under cybersecurity, right? And any misuse can be reported to the same division. But I think there is a need for a governing body which is focused on the right use of AI and prevent misuse of AI, right? But I think, see, I'll like to end on a positive note. So in my previous company, I used to also head marketing, and we created a video for that product. That was in English. I wanted to launch in Middle East. I went to a dubber and I said, "How much will you take?" He said, "I will take $10,000 to remake the video." Then Anuja Dhawan, she is the founder of Dubverse, my ex-colleague. So I went to her and said, "How much will you do it at?" He said, 99 rupees. You can go and just upload the video. Within 1 hour, we'll give you a vetted video. I didn't believe the video was going to be high quality. So she gave it to me in an hour, 99 rupees. I transferred using UPI. And I sent it to my friend in Middle East, who's an Arab. I asked him, is this okay? And he said even the notations, the vocalization is great. The tonality is great, right? I think we should look at positive side of that. And, obviously there is a need for somebody to monitor. I think as far as I know, that's being set up. Formally may take a few years. India usually follows what happens in the West from a data security standpoint. I think Europe is the most advanced. and then US follows in India. But yes, I think if there are frauds happening, I think it's been addressed, right? So Pankaj referred to one player, and I know that there have been others also. But yes, like in cyber security, like the calls that we were getting, I think the government is taking action. Niti Aayog is also kind of focusing a lot on how does AI come in and how do we regulate it. So I think the think tank is thinking on that. The policy implementation may take some time, but as far as I know, I think it's in action.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think that's all from us. I really want to thank everyone. I know it's late evening, but I think thank you for being a patient audience. So I think kudos to that. And
Thank you
also
so
I
much.
want to thank our esteemed panelists for sharing some of the wonderful perspectives with everyone. So